We're talking Ball State. Don Shondell and Ray McCallum talking Ball State. Nate Davis and Bonzi Wells. Schumann, Bell Tower, and Worthen. Fans all over from Muncie to Berlin. Getting Concannons, Carters, and Greeks. All right, everyone out there in Cardinal land, welcome to another live edition of Ball State of the Union, your number one Ball State football podcast. By the fans, for the fans. We're talking current headlines, exclusive interviews with Cardinal athletes and coaches, and fun off-the-wall debates that you're not going to hear anywhere else. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to us on all of your favorite social media platforms. And as always, when you hear that beautiful song from that beautiful voice, you know we're about to be talking Ball State. I am John, your host, as always, joined tonight by my good friend Colin from over there on Ball State Football Talk. Obviously, no Willie Snead this evening. He's got dad duty tonight. He's out there supporting his daughter up there in, I believe, Orlando, which I guess for you guys to be down there, but up there for me, the cheer competition. So they're on their way back. So Willie, chime in, let us know if you're watching right now how the cheer competition goes. So it'll just be Colin and I tonight. We have a guest coming here in just a second. But Colin, it's been a little while. We had a little bit of a hiatus, a little bit of break once the season ended. I think it was about 10 days ago now since we last got on here. So what you been up to since we last talked?
I've just been watching the Together episodes. We had the season finale just come out, 30-minute episode produced by Jude, or directed by Jude. That was a great episode. I'm excited to get into it a little bit, talk about everything we saw this season, talk about next season. This is a guy that's been, ingratiated with the program, getting that behind the scenes coverage. He's going to know he's seen more than you or I with his up close with his own eyes. So I'm excited just to pick his brain a little bit and just see what he thinks about this year.
Yeah, I'm excited too. And we'll get to Jude here in just a minute. But I just want to remind everyone we are live right now. So if you're listening to us right now, Sunday night, 8:30, we are live. So if you have any questions for Jude that you want to get off and answer in real time, put them in the chats wherever you're watching them at, whether that be on X, whether it be on Facebook, or whether that be on YouTube, and we will have Jude answer them. Or it could be for anything. It could be about the Together series. It could be about what he's doing, what else he's doing in school right now. It could be questions for Colin, anything, put them in there and we will get them all answered here before the show ends. So last two pieces of business here before we get Jude on here, and we'll talk about this wonderful Together series that they did all throughout the year, weekly. That's crazy, weekly for these college students to put out there, Colin. That's a lot of work. So first, as always, Ball State of the Union is a proud partner with the Shop Indie. That is www.theshopindie.com. Colin, the holidays are here. They're upon us. That Christmas is coming up really soon. So if you haven't got your orders in yet, be sure to use that code BSUnion at checkout and you will get free shipping on your order. Don't be waiting around much longer. I know we've had Black Friday. We've had a lot of stuff going on. We're about 10 days out now from Christmas. So get your order in now. If you can still get it in time, use code BSUnion for free shipping on your order. That's piece number one. And piece number two, as always, Ball State of the Union is a proud member of the College Huddle. The College Huddle is a nationwide group of independently made college football podcasts. So if you have anything out there college football wise that you love, obviously Ball State, we're there. If you love just talking about like the playoff that's coming up, if you love the drama with everything college football, it's a big drama year, go over to the College Huddle. Someone's going to be talking about it there, and check them out and support Ball State of the Union while you're there. So Colin, I know when we talked about a year ago, we did an episode where some things we wanted to see. And this show that kind of came out to light here before the season started was something that we had wanted to see for a while now, kind of a Hard Knocks inspired type show, but for Ball State football. And we had the man right here who's responsible for making it happen over this course of 12 weeks or so, or however long it was, every week throughout the season. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, the director, executive producer, all these types of credentials for the Together series, the one, the only Mr. Jude Kieffer. I believe Kieffer is your last name, correct?
Yep.
There we go. Well, Jude, thank you so much for being here with us tonight. How you doing?
I'm doing good. I thank you guys for having me on and just, playing the part that you guys do in the Ball State community. And, it's just cool to have this for Ball State. We don't get everything, but, this is obviously awesome to have. So I appreciate you guys.
Yeah, we appreciate you. We're trying to get our technical prowess on the level of you guys over there at SportsLink, and maybe one day we'll reach it. But as of right now, I'm podcasting out of a closet currently, and Colin is in a spare bedroom. So one day maybe we'll have our own studio, but that's a discussion for a different day. So Jude, I know it's probably just an easy kind of cop out way to describe it, but this Together series really kind of came together. It was kind of like a Hard Knocks. A lot of people know out there the NFL teams do during training camp, but you guys did this throughout the entire season. How did this idea come about for you guys? When were you presented with it, and kind of when did you realize, okay, hey, this is actually going to happen, and we're going to be doing this every week throughout the year?
So, just if you don't know about, with SportsLink, we obviously do a lot of different stuff. When I came in from high school, something I was really interested in was these longer form types of things, whether that's like series or episodes or whatever. But my first semester as a freshman last year, I worked pretty closely on our women's soccer series. I think we did 5 episodes, maybe 6 episodes. But it was the same type of situation, interviews and access and all that stuff. And then in the spring of last year, I helped out a little bit on the men's volleyball series, which was really popular. And then there was a men's and women's golf series. So this type of thing has been around in SportsLink, but we've never had something to the scale of a football series. Obviously, just the state of college football, like the scale, I mean, there's 120, 150 guys just on the roster, and then you've got coaches and support staff. And so just, I mean, and the money involved and the media involved, like football is just big, you know what I mean? And SportsLink had never gotten the opportunity to do this type of thing with that program. So it was really the end of last year, so the spring of last year when I was actually about to go into summer break. Coach Yu came into one of our SportsLink classes pretty, I mean, maybe like a few days after he got the job, and just in like our lecture setting and just talked to us about, what he's all about and let us ask him questions and said, if you guys have any ideas for what something you want to do, like hit me up. I would love to support you guys and some of the students on campus. So it kind of evolved from that conversation and then a few other conversations with support staff and really into the summer. The first time I met the staff was in the summer. And they were like, listen, like we love the things that you guys have done. And obviously I was in a situation where I wanted to step up in the documentary part of our program. So I just jumped on that and I was like, listen, I'm not ready for this. Like just in a professional and like a personal situation, like I was not ready for the opportunity, but I was like, I can't pass it up. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
This is something that college kids, that students are not getting anywhere else. And it's like we really were at the intersection of, SportsLink being this awesome program and a staff change at football that wanted new opportunities. And I just happened to benefit from that. So that's really kind of the overview of how this came to be.
Yeah, and that's sage advice and a lesson you learned at a younger age, and that's something that I learned. I worked in professional and college sports for a while, and work wise and promotions and projects, you just never say no. You never say no, and you figure it out. Whether if you're ready for it or not, you sink or swim, you'll figure it out. And obviously, you guys hit it out of the park with this. I know Colin's got a lot of questions for you. I got one more, and then I'm going to kick it over to him. So you talked about Coach U coming into this like kind of lecture hall and you guys kind of meeting him at the first time. From when that meeting happens to when that first episode comes out after Purdue, what's like the timeline? What's the scheduling look like? How did you guys kind of map this out to where, okay, here's how we're going to do this?
So I would say, I mean, he got hired in December. I
Hmm.
would say it was in SportsLink in January when we came back for spring semester. And then there were a few conversations had in maybe March that I had with our SportsLink directors about, hey, I know that there's things changing in the football sphere. We haven't been able to do this type of thing before. Let's try and maybe push, just at least express our interest to that staff and let them know this is something that we would like to do and that we're capable of doing it. Um, So yeah, that was maybe in March. In June, I think that was my first meeting with the support staff, in terms of the people who we go through. I maybe shot like training camp a little bit in June, and then July I was up there a few times doing like real camp and like weights and stuff, and just kind of getting used to the environment in the facility. We had always planned, we're gonna do 12 episodes. It ended up being 13 because we did one preseason,
Hmm.
um, or Purdue actually happened. So I got to campus on, just for school, just moved into campus on like the 15th, like August 15th, and our episode was coming out the 28th, so 2 weeks later, like the Thursday before Purdue. So we really had some off-season stuff, like some summer stuff that we had shot, and then we did interviews for the first time on report day. And then we had 2 weeks from when we got back to school to when Purdue happened, and we had those 2 weeks to get that first episode out. And that was just, I mean, those first few weeks, that first month over the summer, like that was the growth time for me. That was like figure out what in the world you're doing, figure out who these guys are that you're talking to, figure out, try and, have some, create relationships with the players a little bit, and try and create a workflow and that type of stuff. So that was a really crazy time for us. But
Yeah, and so I want to remind everyone out there watching right now, if you have any questions for Jude, again, this is kind of like a groundbreaking thing for Ball State football that happened this year. Be sure to get your questions in. You can ask them to him directly. So, Jude, I was a huge fan of the show, but I think there is no bigger fan of this show than Colin from Ball State Football Talk. So, Colin, I'm going to kick this over to you now. I know you got a litany of questions here. Take it away.
Jude, I want to thank you for coming on because, this is something we've never really gotten at Ball State. Like this, to me, felt like it rivaled something like Here Comes the Irish on Peacock. And that's a credit to you for doing this, mostly by yourself. I know you had people helping you, but you didn't have like Peacock there, like pushing you, doing something like that. So, credit to you, kudos to you for putting something out that's this high quality. About a year ago to the day, almost, John and I had our holiday wish list episode, our first episode ever together. And this was something we were saying we needed was a Hard Knocks type show to get people to, really invest themselves in the program, care about the players, and I think you really managed to do that. So credit to you, Jude. I want to start off with Nate Voris. This was kind of the season of Voris. Um, so he was heavily featured as early as episode 2. My question for you is, when did you realize that he was going to have a special season? Because like you guys from the jump featured him pretty heavily. When did you realize, before Purdue, after Purdue, when did you know Nate Voris was going to be that guy?
yeah, so this actually ties really well into some things I want to talk about. But the beauty of having the relationship that SportsLink has with football, we have mostly two guys. These are kind of behind the scenes guys, but Pete Rowley, who's the chief of staff at at football, who like is kind of the boss of everything that's not football. You know what I mean? And then he has a someone who works with him, Ryan Lazon. And I remember we were in maybe our first meeting ever, and it was me and our SportsLink staff, and then Pete and Ryan and Kevin, and we were talking about, we really want to have 3, 4, 5 guys that we can keep coming back to and have like carry the storyline and the narrative of the season, not like them personally, but more just like they can speak for the team. And it was uh Kyle and Darren were kind of like the easy ones, you know what I mean? Like we kind of knew we wanted those. And they had pitched a couple other ones, and I said, I was like, man, because we were training in the direction of like some returning guys, or like doing like 4 returning guys, and I was like, this team is half transfers. You know what I mean? Like half of the transfers, and I think it would be wrong not to have one of our guys represent that group of people. If we do 4 returners, it's like, well, we're kind of doing last season. You know what I mean? So we wanted to bring in a new guy, and then Ryan, who I just mentioned, he was like, yeah, like Voris, like this guy is gonna be it. You know what I mean? Like he's shown through preseason and the lifts and things and all what they had seen in spring ball. He was like, you're gonna want this guy. So I mean, he saw way before we did. I didn't know who that was. I don't think really many people knew who that was, but like we had people on the inside who are feeding us these things, and that just teed us up so easy because we got to feature him before anybody knew. He's got all the media coverage in the world now, but when we start with him and we start building that relationship and we tell him, we're like, hey, we believe in you week one, we believe in you on report day, he's going to be way more apt to stick with us through the season. So that, I mean, a lot of luck involved with that, but it is a relationship thing of just the way that our system works.
Okay, and I'm going to jump around to different episodes here, but one that really stuck out to me was episode 5. We'll be going forward in time, we'll go backwards a little bit, but episode 5 right now, this is against the Yukon game. Uh, One of the coolest plays of the year has to be Keon Magwood's pass to Kyle Kelly for the touchdown. As someone who, was at the games, following the teams, recording everything, what was the coolest touchdown to you? Was it that, or was it that 4th and 2 touchdown to Cam Anthony against Kent State? What, or was it something that I'm forgetting? What was maybe your favorite play call and your favorite touchdown from the season?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of like play itself, just like regardless of context, the Keon to Kyle one is awesome for us because it's two guys that we're following. You know what I mean? Nothing is better for us than when I'm like shooting Kyle and I pan over and Nathan's there. You know what I mean? Because those are our guys. Like
Right.
obviously, like we love, we want to highlight everybody that we can, but it's like we really like try and stick with our guys as much as we can. Um, I would say, and this is not the 4th and 2 to Cam was cool, like contextually, like just the context of that game. The fact that I didn't think they were going to snap the ball. I thought they were going to go out there and I thought they were going to call timeout and they were just going to try and come off sides or maybe something like that. So I was just surprised when they even snapped it. So that one was just awesome in terms of the context of the game. But Keon's catch versus Ohio, I mean, his game winning catch against Ohio,
Right.
that pinnacle of the season, pretty much. I'm a big fan of Keon in general, and just the reaction that we got out of him, like that was kind of just a priceless moment. But I would definitely say that was my favorite.
Great pick.
Mhm. Yeah,
Go
and
ahead,
Jude,
John.
before Colin goes on, I had one. I don't even not even necessarily a criticism. It's more just a question about the Yukon episode. Obviously, maybe a lot of Ball State fans don't know this, but there was a crazy travel delay or that happened after that game. It didn't really make it into that episode. Was there a specific reason for that, or was just another story you guys were trying to tell?
I think probably the most honest answer I could give to that is it was like midnight and I didn't want to shoot anymore.
Fair enough.
And like on the plane. Like we were sitting on the plane for like 5 hours and then we bus back to a hotel. And Pete actually, or maybe coach or somebody was like, man, like Jude, you need to be shooting this. And I'm like, I've been here for like 24 hours. I do not want to shoot on a plane longer. You know what I mean? Like it gets to a
Uh,
point where I don't know. I mean, some people would enjoy that, I'm sure, but I also don't even know if they necessarily would have wanted me to highlight that.
mhm.
Um, yeah, that was, I mean, we sat there forever. It was a tough day and but yeah.
Yeah, I was at the game, and so I was talking to Chris Radican afterwards about in the parking lot, and so we kind of we dapped up and went our separate ways, and I got back to I have a friend who he didn't live in he's not from Connecticut, but he's from just over the border in Massachusetts, so we were staying at his parents' house, and I got back, I was in bed at like I don't know 11:30, 12 that night, and Radican's like, we're still on the plane, we haven't moved yet. I was like, oh, these guys are in for a long bad night here. So sorry, call back to you here. Oh, sorry, Jude, do you have something
You're
there?
good. You're good.
As unfortunate that situation was, like, man, nobody treats us like you we get treated so great. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? That's something that's totally out of the thing, but I mean, they literally scrambled and booked 200 people a block of hotels down the road, got 4 buses and came and pick us up as fast as they could. Like, as unfortunate as it is with that big of a crew, like football takes like such good care of us. So it's
Mhm.
hard, you know.
Mhm.
Well, Jude, they better take care of you with this docu-series you were doing here. I'm gonna stick with UConn for a second. It might have been the first game that most fans will point to as a game that kind of got away from us. When you look back at this whole season, what game do you feel most strongly we should have won? Is it UConn? Is it NIU? Is it Eastern Michigan? Or is it something else I'm missing?
Yeah, I think it would be NIU, honestly. UConn was, I think, one of the easier losses to stomach because it was like we went into it. It's a non-conference kind of whatever. You know what I mean? It's that third non-conference game that's like I just didn't have very big like expectations for that game, and honestly, great game in my opinion. And I mean, they
Mm-hmm.
said it in the last episode, but he was like, that was one of the games where the offense and the defense were playing really well. They explosive plays, and I think anybody that watched Ball State football, explosive plays was an issue kind of throughout the whole season, but they did a lot of things well. It was a good game in my opinion. But NIU, like, they had a lot of I mean, NIU won how many games this year? You know what I mean? Like, they just, in my mind, and in the mind of pretty much everyone on in the program, they were like, we're better than NIU. And Nathan says it in the season finale as well. He said that's a team that we're better than. We knew we should have beat that team. I don't think that was necessarily the mindset going into UConn or Eastern. Maybe Eastern was kind of a similar situation. There was a lot of other emotions involved with that, but NIU was a tough one for sure.
Jude, episode 6 is the second longest of the season after the season finale. It highlights my favorite game of the year, the Ohio game. I was at that game with my wife. It's the only game she's ever seen of Ball State really live. And I love this quote from Magwood about his game-winning touchdown. My teammates rushed me. It was a beautiful feeling. It's something I want this team to get used to. Was Keon Magwood our number one leader this year? And who else were some of the leaders of the team?
Oh, that's tough. Once again, like I said, Keon's catch in that game, my favorite moment of the year. I
Mhm.
probably favorite moment. Ohio, probably a lot of people's favorite game of the year, just in general. Um, that game, high hopes, or not our first home game, but our first home game that kind of mattered. I mean, New Hampshire was kind of a different thing, but um, yeah, I mean Keon, I would say Keon and Kyle on offense. Um, Nathan on defense, Darren on defense. Um, JoJo Lewis was kind of a big one on defense in terms of like, or Joey Stimler as well. I mean, that was a big one. Yeah, I mean, Keon definitely like a lot of different personalities throughout the whole team, and which is awesome for us. We get to show that these guys are dynamic and not just football players, but definitely him and Kyle had very different ways of leading the team. You know, Keon was very passionate. I mean, just one word I think of when I think of Keon, especially when he's on the field. I mean, he's just passionate. Like you can never doubt that Keon cares. You know what I mean? Because he shows it in his face and his actions. Like he really showed, and he was always over there. You know what I mean? He's firing guys up, and he's like, "Come on, guys! Like we gotta figure this out. We gotta step this up." Like so on and so forth. But yeah, I mean, I would definitely point to him, just an older guy for sure, the longest tenured Ball State football player. Um, Someone that I really enjoy being around, somebody that I really hope at least that people latch onto in terms of personality. But I would say, yeah, in a lot of ways.
Yeah, so Jude, Colin inadvertently let something slip here right now, so I gotta call him out on this real quick. Colin, you went to like how many football games did you go to this year?
I think 5 or 6, maybe.
Did you just tell me your wife has been to one game ever and it was a huge upset against Ohio and you didn't bring her to anymore?
Look, she graduated from Clemson in her undergrad and then went to Notre Dame for her master's. So she has bigger fish to fry.
No, she
Football
doesn't.
wise, she's
No, she
worried about
doesn't.
other teams. Hey, I
No.
agree. This is a Ball State household, but that's why I haven't gotten her out there.
Well, that has to change next year.
Yeah,
Okay.
So,
Fair enough.
okay.
Fair enough.
like
Okay, so episode. Oh, go ahead.
so she was given like the best intro to Ball State football ever.
Correct.
You know,
I know. I know. That was an incredible game. And you can see me in that episode. I'm in the back, like standing up as it happens and putting my arms up.
yeah.
But another game I was at, Jude, and this one was a little less fantastic. Uh, Western Michigan. 42-0 loss. I was there till the 2-minute warning. People were yelling in my ear, telling me it's going to be a long day for me. Was this the most brutal loss of the year, Jude? Or was it maybe like Toledo? I remember talking to you in the DMs and you just saying Toledo was just brutal. What game do you think was the toughest one to really be at?
Yeah, I mean, just in terms of what happened on the field, it's got to be Western, right? I mean, I don't know. It just didn't work, you know. I mean, it just didn't. Things weren't happening at Western, and obviously we can point back to like Purdue and Auburn in the same light. I think in terms of what I saw on the field, Western was kind of a similar thing to Purdue and Auburn, but obviously the expectations for those games are wildly different. Something people might overlook a little bit at that point in the moment, at least people were overlooking Western goes on and wins the MAC championship
Mhm.
pretty, I wouldn't say easily, but they were whoever. I know Miami kind of got snuck in there and people were a little upset about that, but like they were going to beat whoever they went up against. If they played Ohio, Toledo, or Miami, they're beating all those teams. Western was just a monster this year, maybe a team that people don't expect to be a powerhouse in the MAC. So we kind of were upset about that, getting whatever. 42-0 is not good either way, obviously. That one was upsetting. Like I said before, NIU is just tough, like
Mhm.
with high expectations. And then, you go out and you score, and they scored in the first half, I think, or the first quarter, maybe even. It was like 7-7 going into the half, I think, and then the ball just doesn't move. Sometimes they just didn't move the ball, and that one was frustrating. But like what was happening on the field at Western, very, very hard to watch in a lot of ways, But that's what we deal with, ups and downs, right?
Mhm.
Yep. Yep. As Ball State fans, you got to be ready for a win. You got to be ready for a loss, Jude. Uh, Episode 7 also featured the microgreen plot line. So Darren Conley plants some microgreens and then later in the season goes on to harvest them. Jude, did you guys get any microgreens? Did you get to try the microgreens? And what's your honest review?
Yeah, Darren was awesome throughout the season. I'll just say, somebody that I really like enjoy being around. Somebody that was just always, he's just, I mean, on the field, off the field, like he's just a great guy. I went to the first one. The first time that we did it with him, I was there. I think the second time had like COVID or something. I'm trying to think back, but there was some reason. I'm pretty sure the people who did go tried them and they were like spicy, which was super strange to me. They were like these like spicy mustard things that he was harvesting. I was like, literally, it's just, I mean, this is the most awesome part to me is like, this is just something that the average person knows nothing about, and you definitely wouldn't expect a D1 football player to know anything about. And that's just cool, you know what I mean? Like we get to show that these guys have like niche interests, or they have like, they're just cool people off the field. It's really rewarding for us to get to give, or for them to have the opportunity to show that.
Mhm. And then moving forward, episode 8, Homecoming against Akron, our best offensive day. Also, the episode that featured our co host Willie Sneed and someone we interviewed, Juwan Edwards. Do you have any idea like how we can get that same? I felt like there was a certain atmosphere to that game. Can you describe that atmosphere? And then can you maybe give us some ideas on how we can kind of increase attendance for other games and get that same atmosphere for most of the home games for Ball State?
Yeah, I mean that was an awesome game. There was a lot of crazy stuff. I mean, when I think about that game, I think about the rain delay. Were either of
Mhm.
you
Mm,
I wasn't at that one.
no, I wasn't
okay?
either.
Crazy experience. I mean, they literally evacuated for I think an hour.
Mhm.
Um, just for us logistically, I just was very frustrated with that whole situation. But yeah, I got to see. I mean, we go out in the tailgate field, which is always fun because people in tailgate fields are way more apt to be on camera than they usually would be, if you know what I mean. So we get to talk to people and see the community at large and Jawan and Willie and talk to those types of guys. So that was a really special experience for me because I didn't go to homecoming when I was a freshman. I think I went to the first home game and that was like it. So just getting to see that and getting to see people pull through. another thing I'll say while it's on top of mind, um, Mark, and I can't remember what his last name is, but the guy who's been to like every home game ever. Do you know who
Yeah.
I'm talking?
Yes, we talked to him
Yes.
at the Kent State game. We're gonna have him on the show at some point here soon.
I mean, just awesome guys over there. Like just seeing that, like, it really shows you like no matter what's going on with Ball State football, like we know there's going to be frustrations and there's going to be, disappointment or whatever, but like there's people out there that just ride or die for this program, which is an awesome thing to see. In terms of like attendance to games, I mean, I think that game and then our next home game or the Maction game as well had probably pretty similar attendance. Like they were both great, great atmospheres. One got, the rain delay moved everybody out with 6 minutes to go, but it's something that Coach Yu said, I think multiple times to us at the beginning of the season. But he was like, the only way people are going to come to games is if we win them. You know what I mean? It's like,
Mhm.
and that I don't think I talked to you guys about, but I was talking to somebody. I was like, when they won against Ohio, um, going into the next home game, I was like, man, if they beat Western going into homecoming, they're going to sell out. I mean, not really, probably, but they're going to sell out Schumann. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
It's
Right.
too big the season. It doesn't matter what the marketing is for the game or like what the ticket sale like promotion is. Like if you win 2 games in a row like that, you're gonna sell out homecoming. Like, and it's just kind of the way it is. We want to see more people there, but you kind of got to win them to get them to go in the stadium.
Mhm. Yeah, and you kind of alluded to this when Colin asked you about Western Michigan, but coming off that Ohio win, and like you said, we didn't really know what Western was fully going to be at that point. But coming off of that Ohio game was Western the next week, so everyone was like, "Finally, this is our first big win we've had in a long time." So that's what made that Western loss even so much more tough, is because it's like, all right, we have finally had this glimmer of hope that we've been waiting for since what, calling the bowl game against Georgia State. Like it's been a few years now,
Yeah.
and we finally had this glimmer of hope, and then they just get trucked and up there in Kalamazoo, and it was just like it just took this wind out of everybody's sails there. So yeah, interesting. Yeah, I'm with you. I think that if they had somehow beaten Western Michigan, I think that Akron game would have been a huge crowd.
Yeah, for sure.
So, Jude, we're going to get to episode 9, but you brought up something that I have in a later question, so I'm just going to jump to that. Episode 10, I began to kind of notice a pattern with the team. After a really good win, we get a bad loss. After a really bad loss, we get a win. You saw that with, NIU, then you go to, great win against Akron, but before that was Western Michigan. Then we have a bad loss to NIU, then a great win against Kent State. What do you attribute that to? And why didn't the pattern continue into the later year? Because at the end there, we got Eastern Michigan, it's a bad loss. Then you turn around Toledo, then you turn around, Miami, Ohio. What was it? Why couldn't we ever string 2 wins in a row? And then later in the season, we just never turned it around. What do you attribute that to, Jude?
I think this kind of ties into the can't win on the road type of thing. I through the whole season, I was a huge proprietor of it's just I kept telling people, I'm like, it's just I think it's a coincidence. Honestly,
Mhm.
I know the road is a little bit different of a thing, but like you have to realize like these MAC stadiums that we're going to, the only one I that we went to that I was like, man, this crowd is really into it was like Western, and it was their homecoming game. I mean, that was a really great crowd that they had, and it was loud or whatever, but like I just didn't see away environments that were like affecting the team that much, in my opinion. And I think as hard as it may be to like defend, my opinion is that it's just coincidental they were winning their home games, losing their away games. Obviously, towards the end of the season, you lose two on the road against Miami and Toledo. That, in my opinion, is like, you know what? Toledo was a good team. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
Miami be not as good as Toledo, but still a good team. And I think going into Miami, as unfortunate as it may be, you probably don't have as much buy-in with the team the last game of the year with no stakes. That's just the way it goes, I would think. But yeah, I mean the ups and downs, like for us, honestly, we kind of love that because it's like you get to show it would be way worse in my opinion if you win a bunch in a row, lose a bunch in a row, win a bunch in a row, because then our viewership on our show is just gonna die in the middle. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think it was kind of a lot of maybe just coincidental, but the road stuff, it's hard to deny they just didn't win on the road.
Mm-hmm.
So let's backtrack a little bit here. We got to talk about the NIU disaster covered in episode 9. Most fans are going to remember this game for being the game that we lose the bronze stalk for the foreseeable future 5, 6 years, maybe longer, however long it is. NIU, my problem, Jude. NIU had almost 60 rushes for over 300 yards. Going into the game, Willie sat here, John sat here, I sat here. We told the viewers they're going to try to run the ball down our throat. They're going to run it on first down. They're going to run it on second down. They're going to run it on third down. They're not going to pass it. And that's exactly what they did. And they dominated us. So, my question really is, can you speak to the coaching before this game? Did you see it? What were the coaches talking about stopping the run the week before practice? If so, what happened in your estimation?
I definitely couldn't speak to like the preparation, just in terms of like technically and like just like philosophy. Um, Super strange, you know what I mean? They go into that game with like a really good run defense. You know what I mean? Like they had been showing that they can stop the run pretty for the most part all year. Um, I think if I'm not mistaken, NIU was like had a new quarterback, or maybe like they had like I think they started a new quarterback that week. So like they're in my mind at least they're showing like I would assume they don't trust this guy as much. You know, they're probably going to run the ball like you said every play, and it was just strange. I just didn't get it honestly. I was saying there, I was like, man, like these are good players that are just kind of missing steps a little bit. Like, you know, you got your like front line that's kind of just not getting where they need to go against what I thought was not a great NIU team. So like it was just strange because it's like that was our probably best unit, right? I think a lot of people would agree with that. Like D line, even like, you know, like the linebackers, I mean, they really were a solid group like all year, and then it kind of just wasn't working in that week for whatever reason. So I don't know. I mean, I don't most weeks I will say I'm not at practice. And if I am, it's like after or like at a time where they're not doing a lot of that type of stuff. So definitely like a strange thing to fall apart in my opinion, but you win some, you lose some, I guess. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah, and late in the season, the viewers of the Together docuseries were introduced to running back Jalen Bonds. I know he's one of your favorite players. What can Cardinal fans expect from him in the future, especially with Quay hitting the portal? Looks like next year our backers are going to be TJ Horton and Jalen Bonds. What can we expect from Jalen Bonds next year? I think he's a freshman this year from Cathedral.
Yeah, I mean, he's got 4 years left. He's got 4 years of eligibility left. I think he played in maybe 3 games. He has his red shirt for this year. They didn't burn that for I know that.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, like really just got an opportunity and ran with it. Like, I mean, you know, no pun intended, but like awesome guy. I mean, I remember the first time we talked because we only interviewed him twice. It was the last 2 weeks or maybe the second to last week or something like that. Um, he just like well-spoken guy, like really like level-headed. I was in the running backs meeting, like he's just dedicated to what he does. And, you know, he's one of those guys where it's like maybe he seems a little bit more one-dimensional, I would say, but like isn't that how you want your players in a lot of ways? Like you want your guys to show up and just get show you the same thing every week. I know that's something he does all like he really like every time I see him, he's just like ready to do what he's got to do, and then like he gets in the game, like like I said before, like pretty soft-spoken guy, at least to us, like in our interviews. He goes out there and he's just running guys over, and like it's an awesome thing to watch. Like this guy just really puts his head down, and it's really interesting. Um, just from our standpoint, he is the only player that we interviewed this last year that is, or at least from what I understand, I don't really keep track of these things too closely, but from my understanding, the only guy coming back here. Every other person throughout the year is most of them graduating, but some of them leaving. So we're really excited to hopefully grow that relationship with him and start to build his story arc.
Yeah, John's got something on EMU before we go even further, but one of the things I was really impressed by, and Jude, you guys highlighted this, in one of the games, Jalen Bonds, he's trucking guys, he's running through dudes, and like pops his shoulder out of place, dislocates his shoulder, and the staff comes on, puts his shoulder back into place, and he tells them, "I'm ready to keep going." And they put him in the game, and he has over 100 yards that game. That was super impressive to me because it just showed like we didn't really have a ton to play for, right? Except for the name on the front, name on the back, your pride. But for someone to go in there and just say, like, he could have been done for the day, but to be like, no, I want more. Like, and this is a dude that runs through people's faces. I think he's going to be a perfect complement with TJ Horton, kind of a lightning thunder aspect there. We got a quick, fast guy who can kick return, and we also have a big bruiser. So I'm super excited to see him in the future. Definitely. John, go ahead.
Yeah, so Jude, I think the Eastern Michigan game was the game where maybe not in the building, but when that game was lost, the fans kind of out there all were saying, "Hey, okay, we're going to Toledo, going to Miami, having to win both of them to go be bowl eligible. This season's probably not going to end in a bowl." So that was a very bad day for Ball State fans. But it was also a bad day for you because these eyes do not miss anything. Jude, I believe you got trucked on the sideline during the Eastern Michigan game. Is this correct?
Yes, that is correct. Yeah, yeah. Um, Man, I'm trying to even think when this was during the game, but I pretty much have my spots on the sideline. Like there's a few staff members that I'll stick by because they know what I'm doing and they'll get out of my way a little bit. Or usually I'm standing in front of the O lineman because they can see over me. Just
Mhm.
that's a lot. But I was standing next to like Max Webster or somebody or like one of the equipment guys, and I'm head down. Like I mean, there's a white line and then there's the sideline, right? And I'm pretty much where the sideline is, right? Not necessarily where I'm supposed to be, but that's where I'm sticking at. And um they run, I mean, that game, I mean, they run it a lot, but that game, they ran jet sweep 100 times with Eric Weatherly. They just kept running it over and over again. And it usually doesn't come out that far. You know what I mean? They usually, whatever, somebody pushes me out of the way or whatever, but I'm like head down on my camera and the screen's like this big, right? So I'm just like, I'm seeing everything through this small screen. And the next thing I know, an Eastern Michigan guy takes out my legs. Eric Weatherly, like, hits the front of the camera, breaks my focus ring. Uh, Definitely like I wouldn't say like not like embarrassing necessarily, but I was like, man, like I gotta take a couple steps back next time. You know what I mean? Everybody was like cheering me on, but I was like, man, like I just can't let that happen again. You know what I mean? But it was a funny moment for sure.
I was a ball boy at Ball State as student manager, and I was a ball boy in the NFL for years. I thankfully never got hit, but I've seen people get hit left and right. And one fun story, and I'll let Colin get back to it, was when I was a senior, we played at University of Iowa. So I played an old stadium there, very small sideline. So college rosters are much, much bigger than NFL rosters. So there's no room at all. So
Yeah.
basically, you get boxed in there with those offensive linemen, like you're talking about, and it's just basically it's just like a bowling ball is coming at you, and you hope that you're not the pin because you have absolutely nowhere to go. So let that be a lesson to you, Jude. Like you said, maybe take a step or two back if you got space, but sometimes you just got to lower your shoulder and take it. So that's just the life of the sports staff. So all right, Colin, back to you.
Dude, I just thought of this because you brought up Max Webster. One of my favorite things, and this might come off a little critical, but I don't want it to too much because this is honestly my favorite thing that Ball State's ever produced. But one of my favorite things I got to see this year was player interaction between two players. And it's not something we really get to see because after the games, when they put out post game press conferences, it's normally one player alone, and then that player leaves, and then another player comes on. It's not really like the basketball, how sometimes they'll have two players and they're chatting back and forth. So you kind of get to see that interaction. Two of the only times we got to see that was episode one, Quay Ashley and Kyle Kelly walking into the stadium. And that was really cool just to see their dynamic and what they thought of the defense and the offense going into the season. And then later we see that, I believe, episode 10 with the two brothers. I want to say the two Webster brothers. Can you speak to why that's something we didn't see more of?
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm actually glad you brought that. I was actually going to say something about this, but I remember the first time that I had reached out to you guys on here or something like that, and either you, or I think maybe it was Willie that said it. He was like, "Man, like I really want to see these guys interact more." And then you brought up that moment in episode one, which me too, one of my favorite moments. Just I was following Kyle that day, and Quay happens to be over there. Honestly, I didn't even know who Quay was at the time, but they have that interaction, which is just something you don't see very often. Obviously, with the brothers, like that's kind of more of a given because it's like, oh, there's two brothers on a team. Something there. But that's definitely something that I heard from you guys that I really started taking to heart more and started looking for a little bit more was like, you know, we have like our main guys, like our main 4 or 5 guys, however many, and we get a lot of them talking about sometimes the same things. And it's like, man, it would be better if they just said it to each other or something like that. Um, I will say, like from a logistics standpoint, a lot of times we can't do it just because of like scheduling. A lot of times it's hard enough just to schedule one guy for a shoot and like finding a time for them both to do something. Like it is kind of a I would say a big ask, but like we don't want to necessarily push that too much. The on-field stuff, there's something there for sure. I've started looking for that more on the sidelines or one of my favorite moments goes back is like I think it was Kent State. It was Quay broke off a touchdown or maybe I think it was Akron. Quay breaks off a touchdown and him and Kyle are on the sideline chirping each other. That's cool stuff. Like we can get that stuff in game and something we definitely will want to think about more moving forward is like getting them off the field together. No pun intended again, but like getting them off the field to do our feature stuff more. But yeah.
Yeah, thank you for that. Thank you for that. The season finale, Jude, it just came out, was absolutely excellent. One of my favorite scenes was on Scott Hudson because sometimes we as fans focus on wins, losses, but just as important, almost more important, honestly, and it might not register at the time, but honestly, more importantly, is the young men that Ball State are putting out into the world. That Scott Hudson story was really touching and just kind of spoke to the some of the people that didn't even get to be in the limelight. With that being said, I want to know what your favorite episode was and why.
Yeah. I mean, if you would ask me this literally last week, I would have said 6, which I think you had mentioned before, the Ohio thing. That was our longest one at the time, which just like from a production standpoint, that's kind of a flex for us when we get to say, "Oh man, we did X amount of minutes. We did 15, 20, however many." It's the season finale for me. Just personally, a lot was poured into that. Um I think our guys opened up a lot more in that last one. I'll go back to Scott for a second. That story was really special for us because we knew going into the season that we wanted to do that one, and we kind of just kicked it down the line a little bit, and it ended up being the last one. But Sam, who is one of our other producers, who works for the team as well, he had pitched that story before the season even started. He was like, "Man, Scott Hudson, like he's been through it. You know what I mean? Like just in terms of his football career, his high school, his foster care. He's had these people pass away in his life, like things that." Unless he is like a Nathan Voris or like a Kyle Kelly, people don't really find out about that stuff. You know what I mean? Usually the stars, people like will find out about their personal things and attribute their some of their things, but people like Scott, like he's a contributor for sure, but like a guy that doesn't get as many minutes but has this incredible story of like getting on scholarship when Coach U comes in and like really worked for what he has. And that's so rewarding for us just getting to spotlight people that wouldn't otherwise be in the spotlight. Um, Going back to, my favorite one, or actually what I was gonna say with Scott is kind of talking about the relationship between us and the team is like the piece that we open with. So we go to the title, right? And we open with him and he's on the field, right? And he has his helmet off and he's saying, man, like he's talking about someone in his life that had passed away and he's literally dedicating his season to that person. I don't know if you can tell. I mean, we kind of faked it to look like it was before the game, but it's actually after the game. And he had approached me and Sam in the locker room right before the game, and he said, "Man, like I really want to do this." Or right after the game, like, "Can I find you guys? I want to do this." And like that alone is special to us because it's like, he trusts us in this situation. And then just like thinking back on it and even just watching, like the last time he takes off his helmet as a college football player and runs off the field, the last thing he does is comes up to us and does this message. And like for us to have that type of integration and that type of relationship with players, like it really shows that like the level of trust and the level of um the level of just like relationship that we have with them, it is something really special, I think.
That's why I'm really excited to see a season two, Jude. I don't want to get too ahead of myself, but now you have that built-in trust from the year prior as well. So if players they might be unsure if they really want to open up or do this, now they can go to YouTube or go wherever sports link and watch and see like, okay, these guys are really getting the stories. They're really respecting our stories and treating it with respect. So I think that that's only going to help this build in the future here.
Yeah, I'll just jump on you there, and it kind of what I was talking about with the season finale is kind of a similar situation as Scott, but like we had scheduling interviews after the season end was a not a, I wouldn't say a nightmare, but just tough because they play the game on Saturday. On Sunday, guys are making career decisions, if you know what I mean. They're saying
Mm.
our guys, and that's fine, it's the way it goes, but like some of our guys leaving the program the next day and we're trying to do interviews on like Thursday of the next week and it's just kind of the way it goes and we anticipated that a little bit, but even like with our seniors, which was actually kind of a tougher situation, is they were leaving for Christmas, you know what I mean, like pretty much Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, like they had their exit meetings on like Monday. And so they had actually Nathan had reached out and said, "Hey, like I'm leaving to go home on Tuesday. Can we get it done?" And I didn't necessarily know the whole situation until the day of. Um, but literally, at least from what I understand, what he was saying was like literally the last thing he did on campus was our interview. He packed his car at his house, drove to the facility, did our interview, and then left Ball State to go back home to Pennsylvania. And it's like it just shows that they prioritize what we've done and shows that they trust that we are painting their narratives in the right light and they value the way that we are that we're expressing them, and that's something super special for us.
Jude, is there anything you wanted to cover but never got around to, or something that they told you you can't cover this season?
I wouldn't say can't necessarily. Well, there's a couple of things that we never tried. Miking up players. Don't know if it's logistically possible
Hmm.
going to happen. Recording coach comms during the game. I don't know what, I'm not super technologically savvy. I don't know what their system looks like, but I know Oregon does it. I don't know if you guys watch Oregon's show. They actually record the coach comms so that they don't have to mic up their coaches. Because that's just a nightmare. Like that's just a hassle to have the coaches do that in the middle of the game. But those are two things like technically that we really want to try next year. And then there was a couple stories, like couple player features. I don't know how much you guys know about it, but Hamilton Southeastern, which is in Fishers, their high school, there's Cam Anthony and then DJ Hamilton and then Jalen Alexander were three guys that were in the same class at that school, and they had a teammate who had passed away right after the season ended, right after high school graduation, and then those three guys connected back at Ball State and really were um, dedicating their seasons to him. That was one that we were really trying to do, and there's a possibility for us to do in the future as well. But just you kind of get in the thick of it, and things are changing, and it's kind of goes all around. But definitely some that are floating out there that we didn't get wrapped up by the end of the season.
So, Jude, there's some great assistant coaches on this staff. The one that really jumps out to me is Shaq Van. Obviously, I played high school football with him. I coached at the high school that Shaq was an absolute monster at. Um, who and he was also on the 30 best coaches under the age of 30 before the season. Who's someone that stood out to you other than maybe Shaq that was like a great assistant coach that you think deserves a little bit of shine?
Yeah, I mean, we definitely, dove into some of them more than others. There were actually, like, as ridiculous as it may be, we never ended up doing anything with Coach Swicky as the D-line coach, which we
Mm,
totally and,
mm.
like, it's like the probably the best unit, and we didn't get around to it. One we definitely wanted to. Ray Smith was really cool with us. The DBs coach, Madison Bunch was really cool with us. The running backs coach, and obviously it came at a really good time because that was when Jalen had his breakout. We went into their room and kind of talked to him about just the way their room runs and things. Um, I would say Madison Bunch for sure, one that we liked. Coach Knowles and Coach Harmon, like those are kind of the two other guys, like, it's kind of Coach you and them. Um, they were always really cool with us. Like preseason, we did Harmon as our first one, and just really respectful to us and really valued what we were doing. So definitely appreciate those guys.
Fair enough. That was a diplomatic answer. You pretty much said all the assistant coaches are incredible, but we'll take it, Jude. We'll take it. Before we ask some of these final questions for Jude, I want to remind the viewers, the listeners, get your questions in now. We'll ask Jude at the end here when we're wrapping up. But this is kind of I got kind of a tough one for you. So last week we talked about the transfer portal. As you know, there's a lot of guys that jumped in there. If you really did anything for us and your name wasn't TJ Horton, uh, Jalen Bonds, Donovan Hamilton, you're in the portal. JoJo Lewis stayed. Everybody else mostly fled to the portal. So there's some big losses there. I mean, Darren Conley, of course, Quay Ashley, seniors. We're gonna be hit heavy on this with the senior bug. No Keon Magwood, no Ty Robinson, no Nate Voris. There's a lot of guys that are leaving. Eric Weatherly is a guy that's an absolute stud, especially looking at his tape coming into the game, watching him when he gets the ball this season. We knew there was something there. You can tell the kid is talented. He's got the burst, he's got the athleticism, he's got that Willie Snead, I'm little, but I'm going to do whatever the hell I want to because you can't stop me sort of vibe to him. On the last pod, when discussing the transfer portal and what's going on and why all these guys are hitting the portal. Eric Weatherly blessed us with a little bit of a cryptic comment. He commented, and I quote, "It's a lot of things happening behind closed doors." Dot dot dot. As someone that's behind, behind these rooms that John and I can't get into, what do you make of Weatherly's comments? And do you think players enjoyed playing at Ball State? Did they like the offensive scheme? What say you?
Um, yep. Definitely out of my league, I would say. I know you guys don't want to hear that. Um, Definitely outside of this. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, these are things that are probably going on in those exit meetings and going on in maybe staff meetings and maybe, things that we aren't going to. It's unfortunate, but like the situation is like, guys leave, and I'll just speak to kind of part of the question, but like for us, definitely super disappointing that Darren leaves. Somebody that we were attached to, someone that we really loved the narrative of. He brought a different personality to the room. So the not being able to have him on the last episode was kind of unfortunate too, just because guys were kind of leaving before we got to interview them. Um, I definitely don't have the comments that you guys are looking for. Like I see a lot of things, but a lot of it is maybe implicit things that I'm seeing on the sidelines, just like interactions that they're having on the sideline or interactions that are happening in the locker room. But it's not, there were never things said where I was like, man, like scandal or, something like that. Like, that was never something that I saw. To that comment, I think everybody's got their own perspective on things, and I'm sure coaches are having conversations with players about those things, but definitely out of my league in terms of something I can comment on.
Good answer.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Thank you, Jude. We'll take that. And then my last comment for you, or my last question for you, Jude, really is with the way this season went, 4-8, but there's really dreams of something better. The last 3 games, if we win those last 3 games, it was a win and you're in the MAC championship sort of vibe going on here. How confident are you with that sort of late season collapse that next year is going to be a better year?
I mean, going back to what we were just saying, like most of the contributors are gone. You know what I mean? Like graduation or transfer portal, like it's gonna be different. Especially just in terms of team chemistry. Like it starts at the top with Coach U and what he instilled in this new group should give everyone confidence that he can lead a program. You know what I mean? Like in terms of, I just think all the time, and it's a buzzword, but it's like the 1 game season thing. That was instilled in the guys. That was something I saw and something that I heard from our, the representatives that we speak to most is like that was really instilled in them. And you could tell every Monday that we got in there, it was a new week. It was a new season for them. So those types of things that he has really like tried to hammer down on, like those things are trickling down through the roster. And despite like whatever turnover is had with bringing new guys in or whatever, I personally have no doubt that he can instill those same things into a new team. Um, Obviously, you start the year the way most MAC teams start the year with money games that you're not going to win. And it's like, if people go into it with the wrong mindset of, man, like we're going to go out there and we're going to like really, this is going to be something it's not. You know what I mean? Like at the end of the day, it's like this team is going to perform, but it's like we can't just hold these unrealistic expectations over them all the time. Um, I mean, obviously, it's once again the corporate answer, but I have full hope in next season. I have um, a lot. I have trust in the fact in what Coach U at the top is instilling in the guys from the bottom down. But
Thank you, Jude.
Perfect. All right. Hey, Jude, this has been great so far. We got some listener questions and comments here they'll throw at you, and we'll let you get on out of here on this Sunday evening. So we'll start first with our at 1600 Design over on YouTube. So I know we kind of alluded to this a little bit before that we started recording tonight, but do you think this series will be an ongoing thing? And if so, is there anything you would change going forward? So I know you can't probably reveal all your secrets right now, but tell the
yeah.
people out there if there might be a second season, and if so, will you be involved, or how will that go?
Definitely been conversations had between SportsLink as a program and myself and my producers and football as a program. Both sides are about it. You know what I mean? Like both sides really want this thing to continue in a lot of ways. But like you said, in a lot of ways, because this relationship is growing. Towards the end of the season, we saw them respond really positively towards the way we were committed to them. You know what I mean? Like it's kind of cliche, but it's like we committed to what we said we would do, and it was vice versa. They poured into us as much as we poured into them. So as that grows, I think the viewers, I mean, you guys are really going to see the fruits of that relationship growing. Um, I wouldn't necessarily say confirmation on anything we're doing or not doing next year. I mean, fall semester just ended, and I think maybe towards the end of the spring semester, we'll start having in-depth conversations about we want to do X, Y, and Z. We don't want to do X, Y, and Z. But I can pretty confidently say that this is something that will continue.
Okay, there you go. You heard it here first.
Good.
Breaking news. There we go. uh, Colin, your good friend, Mr. Voris. Mr. Voris, Mr. Voris over there on X. He said, Jude, thanks for supporting his son Nathan. Wish you the best of luck in the future. So Mr. Voris, he watches the show pretty regularly. So yeah, he appreciates everything you did for Nathan this year.
It's awesome. It's awesome.
All right, our co-host did chime in here. He was watching the show here. He said, "Awesome work as well, Jude. Thank you for your work this year." He said his favorite episode was the Ohio one for many reasons.
Yeah.
Now, Jude, this brings me to a question I was going to ask at the end, but I'll pose it here now. When this show first got announced and we first finally heard about it, I made a decree on this channel right here, live to all the members of the Ball City Union, that I was going to get on this show. And I was going to be the first member of the show to get on this show. Unfortunately, Willie Snead was the first member to get on the show, and he thinks he's important because he got to go into the Ball State Hall of Fame. Okay, fine, you can get on. Then Colin snuck in the background. Jude, I never made it on the show this year. What do I got to do next year if they're just together next year to get on the show? Do I need to paint my chest? What do I got to do?
I actually do remember before UConn either watching the show or somebody shared it with me, and that it was something about you wanting to get on there. And we had kind of been planning Willie to get on, and I was like, but I was like, the likelihood is very low of you getting on before Willie. It just didn't work out logistically. But I mean, you've got to sneak in there eventually, right? Like
I
some
got
way
to, right?
you have to, yeah.
I have to, yeah. I believe I will be. So also here's a little bit of news for everyone out there. I've alluded to this some on the show, but I will be moving back to Indiana soon. So I will have season tickets next year. So I will be there, and I'm going to get on the show. Hell or high water, I will be on the show next year if it's around. So Jude, Willie did have a question for you here, and I know we kind of mentioned this a little bit at the beginning, but he says here, where the motivation come to put together this series? They needed this back when he was in school. Now, this would have been awesome when Willie was in school because the team was rocking and rolling when Willie and I were in school. This would have been awesome to see back then. SportsLink always puts out great stuff, but it wasn't something to this quality at the time. Is there anything we missed? I know we talked a little bit on how the show came together. What maybe talk about your motivation for wanting to do it?
Yeah, I mean, it's gonna sound a little bit selfish probably, but it's like I think you guys know as well as anybody, like this is a big thing for my career. You know what I mean? Something that, and I try to be as grateful and as like grounded in this as I can, but like I don't think there's any other college student, definitely not I mean, I'm a sophomore this year. I don't think there's any college students getting this opportunity. The other notable shows that I can think of in this sphere are definitely Power Five, right? It's big teams that are doing these shows. Oregon does a really, really great show. I know Maryland does a really, really great show. I've watched theirs a lot, but those are full-time employees doing those every time. I mean, I know there's probably students who get opportunities. I know Here Come the Irish, they have students that get maybe opportunities to wrap cables or something like that. But like there's a place in my experience in the country where you can be a sophomore in college and go and run a show like this. Like it's just it's an awesome experience for me, and it's something that I try to make sure that I am grateful for.
Yeah, Ball State, I've said this for a long time. Ball State is like the perfect school in terms of it's big enough to where there's tons of opportunity, there's tons of things to do there, but it's still small enough where they do rely on the students to do some key things here. And so the students who do take advantage of those opportunities, like you're doing with this, can really set yourself up very well, very quickly for your post, graduate work, whether it's more schooling, whether it's going right into the workforce. So kudos to you for taking advantage of this because, like you said, at Notre Dame, the big thing with Peacock, like they might be, like you said, they might be like wrapping up cables. Like they're not producing and directing this show. And so it's a very interesting, very cool thing that SportsLink has there, and that Ball State lets you guys do. So shout out and congratulations for taking that
John,
opportunity.
Real quick. And the drop off from Here Comes the Irish to Together is not that big. Mm-hmm. It's not like professional to student made. You would not know. So kudos to you, Jude.
Mm-hmm.
On and say, it's funny you guys say that because one of our adjunct professors for our program is actually one of the directors on that show. So I'm definitely going to send that to him. He's going to think that's
There you
Yeah.
go. Perfect. All right. Mr. Willie Snead had a couple other things to get off his chest here, and then we'll wrap this thing up here. So, again, we reiterated this. He couldn't make it because he had the cheer competition this weekend. Willie, how did that go? Let us know in the chat, and I'll get it in there if I can. He's giving me condolences. He's telling me it's going to be okay since I didn't make the show. And then the last comment, I was laughing when this was said because I knew he was in the chat, and I knew this was going to get responded to. Little. Colin, I was dying laughing. You called Willie Snead little on this show. Do you have a response
Hey,
to this?
I do have a response. My offer for me and Willie to do not an Oklahoma drill,
Oh
but maybe
God.
we set up some cones. I got access to some pads. Let's see if Colin can tackle Willie Snead. I weigh 210 pounds. I think I weigh more than Willie, about the same height. Willie obviously is explosive, but I think I might be able to tackle Willie Snead. We might be able to make an episode out of it, John.
Oh, there you go. I'm
What
gonna
say
say
Willie?
I'm gonna say if this is on grass and you're in a helmet, your face mask is gonna get stuck in the grass.
Oh man, but I'm saying like we do an angle drill, so the collision is he can't dodge the collision. I'm
Yeah,
going full speed. I might.
he
Oh
said
my
he'll just jump
god.
over you. So,
Hey, that probably could happen. That
there
probably
we
could.
go. So there we go. All right, Jude. Before we let you go here, any last things for the Ball State Union fans out there? Obviously, we have together. Is there any other work you're going to be doing throughout this year that people can look to, or just is it just hey, everyone go check out SportsLink and all the stuff they're doing?
Yeah, I mean, if you guys aren't in the loop with SportsLink, obviously we love the participation from the community and from you guys and all that stuff. I'm transitioning to in the spring semester. I'll be working with the gymnastics team, getting back with football where I can. Like, obviously the spring is a totally different situation for them, so it's like whatever they're interested in doing, I'm interested in doing. We'll see. I would assume I don't want to put this out too heavily, but I would assume we'll have some type of together content in the spring. We're not just totally going to drop off. We'll try and bleed it in through the off season. But really appreciate what you guys do for the Ball State community. You know what I mean? Like in terms of Twitter presence, especially like when I came in and started doing this, I that's really when I downloaded Twitter even, and I was like, man, like these guys like know everything. You know what I mean? Like I've only been around Ball State for like 2 years, and I was like, it's
Mhm.
nice to guys who like really are bought into the idea, same type of ideas that we are. I would just say for anyone like in the Ball State community who cares about football, especially like we love feedback. You know what I mean? Like I'm a student. This is not like hard feelings for me. Like when people are like, man, like why didn't we see that? Or why did we see this? Or whatever.
Mhm.
Like I love when people interact with our content, the engagement that we get from, people like Nathan's dad, you know what I mean? Like that's the type of thing where it's like most people aren't getting that type of feedback. We love that. And we see it. Like trust me, we see all of the engagement that we get. So definitely definitely encourage people to do that.
Perfect. Yeah, and this was great. We appreciate you kind of bringing us behind the curtain here. I know it's been a little bit over an hour here, and it's been great here and everything that went into the show because it was a cool thing that a lot of people out there wanted to see. So before we wrap up officially, Colin, I know we have another big episode next week. Colin's been working behind the scenes on. He worked behind the scenes getting this worked out with Jude. Colin, the floor is yours. Tell the people what they can expect next week.
Yeah, I'm super excited to announce next week. Next interview is Grammy nominated artist and former Ball State wide receiver slash safety, Freddie Gibbs. So a lot of people don't know this, but Freddie Gibbs, who is a well-known rapper, has done work with Rick Ross, done work with Tyler the Creator, really you name it. I mean, he is in the upper echelon of lyricists, of putting out great albums, especially in the last 10 years. He's had a 20-year career. And it's just someone that we haven't seen really get brought back into the Ball State community. And just talking in the DMs with Freddie, he's interested in coming to a game next year and getting more involved in Ball State again and hopefully getting featured on next year's Together episode.
Mhm.
And it's just someone I'm super excited to be able to reintroduce to the Ball State community and show them, like, guys, we have more people who care about this team than we even know. So I'm just so pumped. I'm thankful that Freddie Gibbs has given us this opportunity to come on the show. I love his music. He seems like a great person, And it's just a huge interview for us. Probably will be the biggest interview we've had since Keith winning, if not, even above that. So just super excited for him to even give us the time of day next week, next Sunday, 8:30 p.m. Eastern.
There we go. So there we go. Look out for that next week, everyone out there. So again, Jude, we appreciate you. We hopefully we'll be able to see some more together next year in some capacity. And then, like we said, Freddie Gibbs next week, and we'll learn about his involvement at Ball State a little bit more that you might not know already. So everyone out there, again, be sure to follow Jude over there on Twitter, over on all the social media. Give him a follow so you can keep up to date with everything. So, guys, I think that's it. Until next week, everyone out there in Cardinal land, we appreciate your time. Chirp, chirp, and go Cardinals.